The cold metal walls of Sentinel Station hummed with life for the first time in 500,000 years. Deep inside the massive orbital platform, Jake Morrison felt the icy grip of cryogenic sleep slowly release its hold on his body. His eyes opened, to darkness, then to the soft blue glow of emergency lighting that had waited patiently for this moment. Jake tried to move, but his muscles felt like stone. The revival process always took time, but this felt different. How long had he been asleep? The last thing he remembered was the evacuation order, and the promise that someone would wake him when it was safe to return. The war with the Devourers had been going badly, and Earth's leaders had made a terrible choice. "Welcome back, Captain Morrison," said a calm voice from the speakers above his head. It was Oracle, the station's artificial intelligence. "You have been in cryogenic suspension for 500,237 years, 4 months, and 16 days. Jake's heart stopped. 500,000 years. The number was too big to understand. Everyone he had ever known was dead. His wife, his children, his friends, his world. All gone, turned to dust long ago. "Oracle," Jake whispered, his voice cracking like old paper. "What happened to Earth? What happened to humanity?" "Earth remains intact, Captain. However, the human population departed approximately 450,000 years ago. They evolved beyond physical form and ascended to higher dimensions. You and approximately 2,000 other humans were left in emergency stasis to guard the solar system." Jake closed his eyes and tried to process this information. Humanity had evolved beyond their bodies and left for other dimensions. It sounded like something from a science fiction story, but Oracle never lied. "Why am I awake now?" Jake asked. "Long-range sensors have detected a massive alien fleet approaching the outer edge of the solar system. The automated defense protocols have been activated. You are needed, Captain." Jake forced himself to sit up. His body ached in ways he had never felt before, but training took over. He was a soldier, and soldiers had duties to perform. He stumbled to the observation deck and looked out at the stars. Space looked different now. There were structures he didn't recognize orbiting distant planets. Ships moved between the worlds, but they weren't human ships. The designs were wrong, alien and crude compared to the sleek vessels he remembered. "Oracle, who are those ships?" "The Kethvar Empire, Captain. They are reptilian beings who have controlled much of this galaxy for the past 200,000 years. They believe humans are extinct and consider the solar system to be an archaeological site. They have been harvesting abandoned human technology for centuries." Jake felt anger burning in his chest. Aliens were stealing from humanity's grave, picking through the bones of his civilization like scavengers. "How many ships are coming?" "Approximately 10,000 vessels, including 500 heavy battleships. They appear to be mounting a full invasion to claim the solar system permanently. 10,000 ships. Even at the height of human power, that would have been a challenging fight. Now, with only a few thousand humans left in the entire system, it seemed impossible. "Oracle, what defensive capabilities do we have?" "More than the approaching aliens realize, Captain." Something in Oracle's voice made Jake pause. There was almost a note of satisfaction in the artificial intelligence's tone, which was unusual for the normally neutral system. "What do you mean?" "Captain, humanity's departure was not random. It was planned. The solar system has been prepared for this day. Please report to the command center for full briefing." Jake made his way through the station's corridors, noting that everything looked exactly as he had left it. The walls were clean, the systems were running perfectly, and there was no sign of the decay he would have expected after so much time. Oracle had been busy during the long years of silence. The command center was a vast room filled with holographic displays showing the entire solar system. Jake could see the approaching alien fleet, a massive cloud of red dots moving steadily toward Earth. But he could also see something else. Green dots were beginning to appear throughout the system, emerging from hiding places he had never known existed. "Captain?" said a familiar voice behind him. Jake turned to see Admiral Lisa Hayes stepping out of another revival chamber. She looked exactly as he remembered her, though her eyes held the same confusion he felt. "Admiral Hayes," Jake said, snapping to attention. Good to see you, ma'am. At ease, Captain. I see you've been getting the situation report from Oracle. How long were we out? 500,000 years, Admiral. Hayes was quiet for a long moment, staring at the tactical display. 500,000 years, she repeated softly. And now aliens think they can just waltz in and take our home. Admiral, Oracle says we have defensive capabilities the aliens don't know about. Hayes nodded. Oracle, show us what humanity left behind. The holographic display changed, and suddenly the solar system was full of green dots, thousands of them, hidden in asteroid belts camouflaged on moons, buried deep in planetary cores, military installations that had been waiting in silence for centuries. The human government's final project before ascension, Oracle explained, Operation Silent Guardian. Every human ship, every weapon, every piece of advanced technology was hidden throughout the solar system. The aliens have been scavenging our leftovers for thousands of years, never realizing they were only finding what we wanted them to find. Jake stared at the display in amazement. We made them think we were extinct. Not extinct, Captain. Sleeping, waiting for the day when someone would be foolish enough to threaten Earth directly. On the display, one of the green dots near Mars suddenly grew larger and more detailed. It was a ship, but unlike anything Jake had ever seen before. It was massive, easily 10 times larger than the biggest human warship from his time. Its hull seemed to bend light around it, making it difficult to focus on. The USS Defiance, Oracle said. Flagship of the Silent Fleet. Admiral Hayes, you are requested to assume command. Hayes looked at the incredible vessel on the screen. Oracle, is that ship really ours? Yes, Admiral. Built with technology developed during the final years before ascension. It is one of 50 such vessels hidden throughout the system. More dots began to light up on the display. Fighter squadrons emerging from hidden bases, defense platforms rising from seemingly empty moons, and weapons that defied Jake's understanding of physics beginning to charge with power. The aliens have detected some of our activation signatures, Oracle reported. They are increasing speed and preparing for battle. Estimated time to engagement, 72 hours. Admiral Hayes straightened her shoulders. Captain Morrison, you'll remain here and coordinate the defense platforms. I'll take command of the Defiance and the main fleet. Yes, ma'am. Admiral, what about the other humans in stasis? They're waking up as we speak. 2,000 of humanity's best soldiers, scientists and officers. Not many compared to what we once were, but enough. Jake watched as more and more green dots appeared on the tactical display. After 500,000 years of silence, humanity's guardians were stirring. The aliens approaching Earth thought they were claiming an empty tomb, but they were about to discover that some things were worth waiting for. Oracle, Jake said, send a message to the approaching fleet. What message, Captain? Jake smiled for the first time since waking up. It wasn't a pleasant smile. Tell them that Earth is still occupied. Tell them to turn around and leave. Tell them this is their only warning. And if they don't listen? Admiral Hayes answered as she headed toward the shuttle bay. Then they'll learn why humanity spent 500,000 years preparing for this moment. The silence was about to break, and the galaxy would remember why humans had once been feared across the stars. Admiral Lisa Hayes floated through the docking tube connecting Sentinel Station to the USS Defiance, her first look at humanity's most advanced warship taking her breath away. The ship's hull seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal, and strange patterns of light moved beneath its surface. This was technology far beyond anything from her time. Welcome aboard the Defiance, Admiral, said a new voice as Hayes entered the massive vessel. The ship's AI sounded different from Oracle, more sophisticated somehow. I am Athena, your tactical intelligence system. Athena, show me to the bridge and give me a status report on all awakening personnel. Hayes moved through corridors that seemed to bend space around her. The ship was enormous inside, much larger than it appeared from the outside. Crew members were emerging from revival chambers throughout the vessel, looking confused but quickly falling back into their military training. Admiral, called Commander Alex Stone as he jogged up to her. Hayes remembered Stone as one of their best fighter pilots. The squadron leaders are reporting for duty. We have 60 pilots awake so far. with more coming online every hour. Good. How do you feel, Commander? Stone grinned. Like I could sleep for another 100 years, but ready to fly. Admiral, have you seen these new fighters? They're incredible. On the bridge of the Defiance, Hayes took her place in the captain's chair and watched as the tactical displays came alive around her. The approaching alien fleet was massive, a wall of ships stretching across space like a moving city. But what caught her attention were the human installations scattered throughout the solar system. Athena, how many humans are awake now? 1,432 personnel have successfully completed revival. All are reporting for duty. Captain Morrison on Sentinel Station is coordinating with hidden bases on 12 moons and 17 asteroids. Hayes opened a communication channel to Morrison. Captain, what's our situation? Morrison's face appeared on the main screen. Behind him, the command center of Sentinel Station buzzed with activity as human technicians worked at stations that had been waiting centuries for their return. Admiral, we have a problem. The aliens aren't just coming to explore. Long-range scans show they're bringing mining equipment, colonization ships, and construction vessels. They plan to strip the entire solar system of resources. How much time do we have? 48 hours until their advanced scouts reach Neptune. The main fleet will arrive 6 hours after that. Hayes studied the tactical display. The Kethvar Empire had brought enough ships to conquer a dozen star systems. Their vessels were large and heavily armored, covered in weapons that looked suspiciously familiar. Athena, analyze the alien weapon systems. Scanning complete, Admiral. The alien weapons are based on human technology, but they are crude copies, made from incomplete data. They appear to have reverse-engineered weapons from artifacts found throughout the galaxy. Hayes felt cold anger building in her chest. For hundreds of thousands of years, these aliens had been scavenging human technology, building their empire on stolen designs. They thought they understood human weapons because they had copied the shadows of what humanity once was. Commander, Stone, take your squadron to the outer system. I want you to intercept their advanced scouts when they cross Neptune's orbit. Yes, ma'am. Admiral, what are these fighters capable of? More than you can imagine, Commander. Athena, brief Commander. Stone on his squadron's capabilities. As Stone left for the fighter bay, Hayes opened another channel to Dr. Elena Rodriguez, who had awakened at a research station hidden inside Europa's ice shell. Dr. Rodriguez, what's the status of the satellite network? Rodriguez appeared on screen, surrounded by holographic displays showing complex scientific data. Admiral, the network is fully operational. We have quantum communication satellites positioned throughout the galaxy. We can send messages instantly to any star system. Good. Prepare a broadcast to all major alien civilizations. Let them know that humanity has returned. What message should I send, Admiral? Hayes thought for a moment. Tell them that Earth is under human protection. Tell them that any species that has built their technology on stolen human designs should prepare to return what they have taken. And tell them that the age of scavenging from humanity's grave is over. Meanwhile, Commander Stone reached the fighter bay and stopped in amazement. The human fighters were unlike anything he had ever seen. They were sleek and organic-looking, their surfaces covered in the same flowing patterns as the Defiance's hull. When he climbed into the cockpit of his assigned fighter, the ship seemed to come alive around him. "Welcome, Commander Stone," said the fighter's AI. "I am your tactical partner for this mission. All systems are ready." What can this ship do? This fighter can exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, making it nearly impossible for enemies to target accurately. Our weapons can manipulate gravity and space-time itself. We are equipped with defensive shields that can deflect any known form of energy. Stone shook his head in wonder. Humanity had truly become something incredible during their long absence. As Stone's squadron launched from the Defiance, the first alien scouts crossed into the outer solar system. The Kethvar vessels were massive compared to the human fighters, bristling with weapons and armor plating. But as soon as the human ships appeared on their sensors, something went wrong with the alien targeting systems. "What is happening?" roared Supreme Commander Vex Thul from the bridge of his flagship. "Why can't we lock onto those small ships?" His tactical officer stared at his instruments in confusion. "Sir, the human fighters seem to be phasing in and out of normal space. Our weapons cannot track them." Stone's squadron moved through space like ghosts, their ships flickering between dimensions. When they fired their weapons, beams of twisted gravity struck the alien vessels, crushing their hulls like paper. In minutes, 12 Kethvar scout ships were destroyed without landing a single hit on the human fighters. "This is Commander Stone to Admiral Hayes," Stone reported. "The advanced scouts have been eliminated. Admiral, these ships are incredible. The aliens couldn't even touch us." Back on the Defiance, Hayes received reports from across the solar system. Human installations were coming online everywhere, revealing weapons and defenses that had been hidden for centuries. Captain Morrison reported that the orbital platforms around Earth were charging massive energy weapons that could destroy entire fleets. "Admiral," reported Dr. Rodriguez, "I'm receiving responses to our broadcast. The Zephyrian Collective is requesting immediate peace negotiations. They remember the old stories about humanity and want no part of this conflict." "What about the other species?" "Most are staying neutral, but the Kethvar Empire is sending reinforcements. They don't believe we're really human. They think we're some other species using stolen human technology." Hayes smiled grimly. "They're about to learn the difference between using human technology and being human." On his flagship, Supreme Commander Vex Thule studied the tactical reports with growing concern. His scouts had been destroyed by ships that seemed to ignore the laws of physics. But he had spent his entire career building the Kethvar Empire using human technology. Surely these defenders, whoever they were, couldn't stand against his entire fleet. "Send a message to these humans," Vex Thule ordered. "Tell them that the Kethvar Empire claims this system by right of conquest. They have 1 hour to surrender, or we will destroy every planet." The message reached Admiral Hayes within minutes. She read it aloud to her bridge crew, and several officers laughed at the alien commander's arrogance. "Athena, send a reply to Supreme Commander Vexithul." "What? Should the message say Admiral?" Hayes stood up from her captain's chair and looked out at the stars where her ancestors had once traveled freely. "Tell him that he has been stealing from humanity's children for 500,000 years. Tell him that every weapon in his fleet is a pale copy of what we really can do. And tell him that if he wants to see what human technology looks like when humans are using it, he should keep coming." The die was cast. Across the solar system, human forces prepared for the first battle they had fought in 500,000 years. The aliens were about to discover that there was a vast difference between scavenging the bones of a dead civilization and facing that civilization when it was very much alive. News of humanity's return spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On 1,000 different worlds, alien leaders gathered in emergency meetings to discuss what this meant for their civilizations. The humans were supposed to be extinct, nothing more than legends and archaeological curiosities. Yet here they were, destroying Kethvar scouts with weapons that seemed to defy reality itself. In the great hive city of Zephyr Prime, Queen Mind Crixova felt her entire collective consciousness tremble with ancient fear. Deep in the genetic memory of her species were warnings passed down from their ancestors, stories of the humans and their terrible wars. The Zephyrians had been wise enough to avoid conflict with humanity even at the height of their power. Now, 500,000 years later, those old fears came rushing back. "Send word to all our fleets," Queen Mind Crixova commanded her drones. "They are to avoid the human solar system at all costs. Any ship that encounters human forces is to surrender immediately and request mercy." But Supreme Commander Vexthul of the Kethvar Empire was not so easily intimidated. He stood on the bridge of his massive flagship, the Devourer, and watched as his fleet of 10,000 ships moved steadily toward Earth. So what if these humans had destroyed a few scouts? His empire had been built on human technology for 200,000 years. He understood their weapons better than they did. "Commander," reported his tactical officer, "long-range sensors are detecting massive energy signatures throughout the human system. It appears they have many more installations than we initially believed." Vexthul studied the sensor data with growing interest rather than concern. "Excellent. More human technology for us to claim. These installations have been hidden for centuries, waiting for us to find them." What the Kethvar commander didn't know was that every piece of human technology his empire had found over the millennia had been deliberately left behind. Ancient weapons, broken ship parts, damaged computers. All of it had been carefully placed by humanity's final generation as they prepared to ascend to higher dimensions. Admiral Hayes stood in the war room of the USS Defiance, surrounded by holographic displays showing the entire solar system. Human forces were taking their positions throughout the system, and she was amazed by what she saw. The technology left behind by ascending humanity was beyond anything she could have imagined. "Admiral," called Captain Tony Williams as he entered the war room. Williams commanded the dreadnought USS Vengeance, one of the most powerful ships in the Hidden Fleet. "My ship is ready for combat. Admiral, you should see what these new vessels can do." "Show me, Captain." Williams activated a holographic display showing his ship. The USS Vengeance was enormous, easily 5 miles long and bristling with weapons that seemed to bend space around them. But what was most impressive was watching the ship phase in and out of normal reality. "The ship exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously," Williams explained. "We can attack from dimensions the enemy can't even detect, then disappear before they can return fire. And our weapons." He paused, shaking his head in wonder. "Admiral, we can manipulate gravity itself. We can create black holes, bend space-time, even stop time in small areas." Hayes felt a chill run down her spine. Humanity hadn't just evolved beyond their physical bodies. They had become masters of reality itself before they left. "Captain Morrison," Hayes said, opening a communication channel to Sentinel Station. "What's the status of Earth's planetary defenses?" Morrison appeared on the screen, and behind him, Hayes could see technicians working frantically at control stations. "Admiral, you're not going to believe this. Earth isn't just a planet anymore. The entire world has been converted into a massive weapon platform." "What do you mean?" "The continents are artificial structures built around enormous energy generators. The oceans hide defensive installations that could destroy entire star systems. Admiral, Earth itself is the most powerful weapon in human history." As if to demonstrate this point, Dr. Rodriguez activated a series of hidden satellites orbiting Earth. The planet's surface began to change, revealing structures that had been hidden beneath artificial landscapes for hundreds of thousands of years. Mountains opened to reveal massive cannon batteries. Ocean floors lifted to show defensive platforms the size of cities. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Commander Beth Parker was aboard a smaller human vessel called the Swift Strike, testing the ship's capabilities against captured alien technology. Parker had always been brilliant with tactics, and now she had access to weapons that made her mind race with possibilities. "Parker to Admiral Hayes," she reported. "I've been analyzing the alien fleet's defensive systems. Admiral, their shields are designed to deflect the crude copies of human weapons they've been using for centuries. They have no defense against our real technology. Demonstrate, Commander." Parker's ship moved toward a captured Kethvar cruiser that had been left in the asteroid belt years ago. The alien vessel was massive and heavily armored, its shields glowing with energy. But when Parker fired a single shot from her ship's gravity manipulator, the alien cruiser simply collapsed in on itself, crushed by its own mass. "The aliens have been preparing to fight shadows," Parker explained. "They've never seen what real human weapons can do." Supreme Commander Vexthal was beginning to have doubts about his invasion as reports came in from across his fleet. His sensors were detecting thousands of human ships appearing throughout the solar system, but they kept vanishing and reappearing in impossible ways. His weapons officers reported that their targeting computers couldn't lock onto the human vessels. "Sir," reported his communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from the humans. Put it on screen." The image that appeared was of a human male in a military uniform, standing in what looked like a command center. But behind him, through the observation windows, Vexthal could see Earth, and the planet looked wrong. Structures the size of mountains were rising from its surface, and the entire world seemed to be glowing with contained energy. "I am Colonel Ryan Davis, speaking for the Human Collective," the figure said calmly. "Supreme Commander Vexthal, you have one final chance to withdraw your forces and leave our system. You have built your empire on technology you stole from our graves. You have convinced yourselves that this makes you our equals. You are wrong. Vexthal's reptilian features twisted with rage. Human, you are outnumbered 10,000 to 1. Your species is extinct. I will take your pathetic system and add it to my empire. Colonel Davis smiled, and the expression was terrifying in its confidence. Commander, every piece of technology your empire has ever found was deliberately left behind. You have been using our children's toys for 200,000 years, thinking they were advanced weapons. You are about to learn what our real arsenal looks like. The transmission ended, and Vexthal stared at the blank screen. Around him, his bridge crew looked nervous. They had all heard the stories about humanity's war capabilities, but those were just legends, weren't they? Sir, called his sensor operator. The human installations are powering up. I'm reading energy levels that... Sir, this is impossible. Some of these readings are off our scales. Throughout the solar system, humanity's true defenses came online. Weapons that could tear holes in space-time itself began charging with power. Ships that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously took their positions. And on Earth, the most advanced defensive system ever created by any species prepared to demonstrate why humanity had once been the most feared race in the galaxy. Admiral Hayes opened a fleet-wide communication channel to all human forces. All ships. This is Admiral Hayes. For 500,000 years, the galaxy has forgotten what we are capable of. They have built their civilizations on the scraps we left behind, thinking they understood our power. Today, we remind them why humanity was once the dominant force among the stars. She paused, looking out at the approaching alien fleet that had no idea what was about to happen to them. All ships, prepare for combat. Show them what real human technology looks like. The battle for humanity's homeworld was about to begin, and the aliens were completely unprepared for what they were about to face. The age of scavenging from humanity's grave was over. The age of reckoning had arrived. Supreme Commander Vexthal gave the order that would doom his fleet. All ships advance to attack formation. We take the human system today. 10,000 HFY warships moved forward in a massive wall of metal and weapons. Their shields glowed. With power, their guns charged with energy stolen from ancient human designs. Vexthal had built his entire career on the belief that his empire understood human technology better than the humans themselves. He was about to learn how wrong he was. Admiral Hayes watched the alien fleet approach from the bridge of the USS Defiance. Around her, human officers worked calmly at their stations, showing no fear of the overwhelming numbers heading their way. They had spent 500,000 years preparing for this moment. All ships, begin combat operations, Hayes ordered. The first sign that something was wrong came when Commander Stone's fighter squadron materialized directly in the middle of the HFY formation. The human fighters had traveled through folded space, appearing where the aliens thought no ship could possibly be. What is happening? Vexthal roared as his tactical displays showed impossible readings. How did they get behind our lines? Stones. Fighters moved like ghosts among the massive alien warships. When they fired their weapons, beams of twisted gravity struck the HFY vessels. Entire ships simply collapsed in on themselves, their hulls crushed by forces that turned their own mass against them. In the first 30 seconds of combat, Stone's 60 fighters destroyed over 200 alien warships. Sir, reported the tactical officer on Vexthal's flagship, his voice shaking with fear. Our weapons cannot lock onto the human fighters. They seem to exist in multiple dimensions at once, but the fighters were just the beginning. Captain Williams and the USS Vengeance phased into normal space directly above the alien fleet. The massive human dreadnought was 5 miles long and covered in weapons that defied understanding. When it opened fire, the results were devastating. Williams had discovered that his ship's main guns could create artificial black holes. He fired a single shot into the center of the HFY formation, and space itself began to tear apart. A dozen alien ships were pulled into the collapsing point of reality, crushed out of existence in seconds. This is impossible, whispered Vexthal, watching his ships die by the hundreds. No species has this kind of power. On Sentinel Station, Captain Morrison coordinated the solar system's fixed defenses. Hidden weapons platforms throughout the asteroid belt came online, revealing guns that could shoot across millions of miles with perfect accuracy. Each shot from these ancient weapons destroyed multiple alien vessels. But the most shocking revelation came when Dr. Rodriguez activated Earth's planetary defense system. The entire planet began to transform before the aliens' eyes. Continents shifted and opened, revealing weapon batteries the size of mountain ranges. The oceans drained into hidden chambers, exposing defensive platforms that dwarfed the largest ships in either fleet. "By the void," gasped a Kethvar officer staring at his sensors. "The entire planet is artificial. It's all one massive weapon." Earth itself had become humanity's ultimate fortress. When its main batteries fired, beams of pure energy lanced across space, each shot capable of destroying an entire alien battle group. The planet's defensive shields activated, creating a barrier that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Lieutenant Commander Parker commanded a small task force of human cruisers, and she was demonstrating the tactical superiority that came with truly understanding their technology. Her ships could accelerate to impossible speeds by manipulating space-time around them, appearing to teleport from one location to another. "Parker to all human vessels," she broadcast on the tactical frequency. "The aliens are clustering their ships together for mutual defense. They don't realize this makes them better targets for our gravity weapons." Parker's ship, the Swift Strike, dove into the center of a Kethvar formation. As the alien ships tried to surround her, she activated her vessel's most devastating weapon. A sphere of altered gravity expanded from her ship, and every alien vessel within 50 miles was pulled together and crushed into a ball of twisted metal. Supreme Commander Vexthul watched his mighty fleet being torn apart by forces he couldn't understand or counter. His 10,000 ships were being destroyed by what appeared to be fewer than 100 human vessels, and nothing his forces did seemed to cause any damage to the enemy. "Sir," reported his communications officer, "we're receiving surrender requests from over 30 of our ship captains. They're asking permission to withdraw." "No retreat," Vexthul snarled. "We are the Kethvar Empire. We do not run from inferior species." But even as he spoke, Vexthul knew his empire was facing something far beyond their capabilities. The humans weren't just using advanced technology. They were rewriting the laws of physics themselves. On the bridge of the USS Defiance, Admiral Hayes received reports from across the battlefield. The results were better than she had dared hope. Human casualties were 0, while the alien fleet was being systematically destroyed. "Admiral," reported Commander Stone from his fighter, "the alien formation is breaking apart. Some ships are trying to retreat, but others are still advancing." "Let the ones who want to retreat go," Hayes ordered. "Focus on any ship that continues to attack." This mercy was typical of humanity's approach to warfare. They could be utterly ruthless when threatened, but they had no interest in slaughter. For its own sake, any alien who showed wisdom by withdrawing would be allowed to live. Captain Amy Foster led a boarding party onto one of the captured Kethvar vessels, and what she found there shocked her. The alien ship's computer systems contained thousands of human technology files, all stolen from archaeological sites across the galaxy. But more disturbing was what the files revealed about galactic civilization. "Admiral Hayes," Foster reported, "from the alien bridge. These files show that nearly every advanced species in the galaxy has built their technology on stolen human designs. The Kethvar aren't unique, they're just the most aggressive about it." Hayes felt a cold anger settle in her chest. For hundreds of thousands of years, the galaxy had been picking through humanity's abandoned possessions like scavengers, building entire civilizations on technology they didn't understand. The battle reached its climax when Earth's ultimate weapon came online. Deep beneath the planet's surface, humanity's final generation had built something that could reshape reality itself. When it fired, the beam didn't just destroy the remaining alien ships. It briefly opened a window into the higher dimensions where humanity now existed. For a moment, every being in the solar system could see them. Billions of humans who had transcended physical form, watching the battle with interest but not interference. The sight was so overwhelming that many alien survivors would never be able to speak of it without shaking. Vex Thul's flagship, the Devourer, was one of the last ships still fighting. The massive vessel had been built using the most advanced, stolen human technology the Kethvar could find, and its commander refused to accept defeat. "All remaining ships concentrate fire on the human flagship," Vex Thul ordered. The surviving Kethvar vessels, fewer than 1,000 now, focused their weapons on the USS Defiance. Beams of energy that could destroy cities struck the human ships' shields, but the attacks had no effect. The Defiance's defensive systems existed partially outside normal space, making them nearly impossible to damage. Admiral Hayes decided to end the battle personally. She ordered her ship to move directly toward Vex Thul's flagship, accelerating to speeds that should have been impossible. When the two vessels were close enough, Hayes opened a communication channel. "Supreme Commander," she said calmly, "you have seen what real human technology can do. Your fleet is destroyed. Your empire built itself on stolen scraps from our past. Do you surrender, or do you choose to die fighting a battle you can never win?" Vex Thul stared at the human admiral on his screen. Behind her, through the windows of her bridge, he could see Earth blazing with power that defied understanding. His mighty fleet had been reduced to burning wreckage by forces he couldn't comprehend. For the first time in his long military career, Supreme Commander Vex Thul of the Kethvar Empire spoke the words he had never thought he would say. "I surrender." 3 days after the battle, Supreme Commander Vex Thul stood in the detention center aboard Sentinel Station, staring out at the wreckage of his once mighty fleet. Twisted metal and debris floated in space where 10,000 Kethvar warships had once sailed. Less than 200 of his vessels had survived, and those only because their captains had surrendered quickly enough. Admiral Hayes entered the detention area, followed by Captain Morrison and Dr. Rodriguez. The human officers looked tired but satisfied. They had won the greatest military victory in 500,000 years without losing a single human life. "Commander Vex Thul," Hayes said, her voice calm but firm, "we need to discuss the future." The reptilian alien looked up at her with eyes that held a mixture of fear and grudging respect. "Admiral, my empire will want revenge for this defeat. They will send more fleets." Hayes smiled, but there was no warmth in the expression. "Let them come. We've been waiting 500,000 years for, someone to test our defenses. Your empire gave us excellent practice. What do you want from us?" Vex Thul asked. "First, you will return every piece of human technology your empire has stolen over the past 200,000 years. Second, you will pay reparations to every species your empire has conquered using our weapons. Third, you will submit to galactic oversight to ensure you never again build your civilization on stolen technology." Vex Thul's scales darkened with anger. "And if we refuse?" Dr. Rodriguez stepped forward, carrying a data pad that showed readings from across the galaxy. "Commander, while you were attacking us, we sent messages to every major civilization. We told them the truth about where your empire's technology came from. Would you like to know how they responded?" She activated a holographic display showing star maps with different colored regions. The green areas represent species that immediately cut all trade and diplomatic relations with your empire. The yellow areas are species demanding the return of territories you conquered using stolen human weapons. The red areas are species that have declared war on the Kethvar Empire. Vex Thul stared at the display in horror. Nearly 3/4 of the galaxy had turned against his empire overnight. "This is impossible. Those species fear us." "They feared the shadow of human technology," Morrison corrected. "Now they know you're just thieves using tools you don't understand. Without our stolen technology, what is your empire really?" The truth was devastating. For 200,000 years, the Kethvar Empire had dominated through superior weapons and technology, never realizing that their advantages came entirely from human innovations. Without access to those stolen designs, they were just another mid-level civilization. Meanwhile, in the great council chambers of Zephyr Prime, Queen Mind, Crixova was hosting an emergency gathering of galactic leaders. Representatives from dozens of species had come to discuss humanity's return and what it meant for the future. The humans have proven they are still the most advanced species in the galaxy, Queen Mind Krixova announced to the assembled delegates. But they have also shown mercy to those wise enough not to oppose them. We must decide how to proceed. Ambassador Veltar of the Crystal Federation spoke first. Our species has been using human technology for 50,000 years. Should we return it all? The humans have not demanded the return of technology from peaceful species, replied Elder Morden of the Gas Giant Consortium. They seem to distinguish between those who found abandoned human artifacts and those who built empires through conquest. This was true. In the days following the battle, humanity had sent messages throughout the galaxy making their position clear. Species that had peacefully discovered human technology and used it to better their civilizations were welcome to keep it, but any empire that had used stolen human weapons to conquer others would face consequences. Back on Earth, Captain Morrison stood in the command center watching as more human installations came online across the solar system. The planet itself was still partially transformed, with massive defensive structures visible from orbit. But now those weapons were powering down, returning to their hidden state beneath artificial landscapes. "Morrison to Admiral Hayes," he called over the communication system. "We're receiving a priority transmission from beyond the galaxy's edge." Hayes appeared on screen from the bridge of the USS Defiance. "What kind of transmission, Captain?" "It's automated, but the signal is using human encryption codes from before the ascension. Admiral, I think our ancestors left us a message." The transmission, when decoded, contained information that changed everything. Humanity's departure from physical form hadn't been just evolution. It had been preparation for a threat from outside, the galaxy. The message spoke of entities called the Void Hunters, ancient beings that consumed entire civilizations and were slowly moving toward the Milky Way. The Void Hunters destroyed our original homeworld long before Earth, the message explained. We evolved beyond physical form to escape them, but we knew they would eventually follow. We prepared Earth as a fortress and left guardians to protect the galaxy when the hunters arrive. Dr. Rodriguez analyzed the data with growing alarm. "Admiral, according to this information, the Void Hunters will reach our galaxy within the next 1,000 years. They've been following the trail of human expansion across the universe. This revelation changed humanity's entire purpose. They weren't just the solar system's guardians. They were the galaxy's last hope against an enemy that had been chasing them across the cosmos for millions of years." Admiral Hayes called a meeting of all human commanders aboard the USS Defiance. The ship's main conference room filled with the officers who had led humanity's return to power. Captain Williams, Commander Stone, Lieutenant Commander Parker, Colonel Davis, Captain Foster, and a dozen others gathered to hear the truth about their mission. "We thought we were defending Earth from scavengers," Hayes told them. "But we're actually preparing for something much worse. The Void Hunters consume entire galaxies, and they're coming here. Our ascended ancestors left us to organize the galaxy's defense." Commander Stone was the first to speak. "Admiral, how do we fight something that destroyed our ancestors' original civilization?" "By doing what humans do best," Hayes replied. "We adapt, we innovate, and we refuse to give up. But we can't do it alone. We'll need allies." Captain Foster raised her hand. "Admiral, what about the species that have been using our stolen technology? Some of them might be valuable allies if properly equipped." "Exactly. We're going to offer advanced human technology to any species willing to help defend the galaxy. Not the ancient scraps they've been finding, but real human weapons and ships. This decision would reshape galactic civilization." Humanity began, reaching out to peaceful species, offering genuine partnerships instead of the superior attitude that had characterized their ancient empire. The Zephyrian Collective, the Crystal Federation, and dozens of other civilizations eagerly accepted human alliance. Captain Morrison took command of a new project, establishing human bases throughout the galaxy to coordinate the coming defense. These weren't conquest outposts, but partnership stations where human and alien crews worked together. "Morrison to all human commanders," he broadcast from his new flagship, the USS Guardian. "We have 1,000 years to prepare this galaxy for the greatest threat it has ever faced. Let's make them count." Meanwhile, Commander Stone led the first human expeditionary fleet beyond the solar system in 500,000 years. His mission was to find and unite the scattered civilizations of the galaxy, building an alliance strong enough to face the Void Hunters. Supreme Commander Vexthul, now stripped of his rank and serving as a liaison between humanity and the remnants of his empire, watched human ships departing Earth with mixed emotions. His people had been humbled, but they had also been offered a chance at redemption by joining the Galactic Alliance. The humans could have destroyed us all, he admitted, to his aide. Instead, they're offering us a chance to fight for something greater than empire. Admiral Hayes stood on the observation deck of the USS Defiance, watching as Earth's defenses returned to their hidden state. The planet looked peaceful again, but she knew that beneath its surface lay weapons capable of reshaping reality itself. "Admiral," called Dr. Rodriguez from behind her. "We're receiving responses from civilizations across the galaxy. Over 300 species want to join the Alliance." Hayes nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. Humanity had returned to the galactic stage not as conquerors, but as guardians preparing for a war that would determine the fate of every living thing in the galaxy. The age of silence was over. The age of preparation had begun. And somewhere in the void between galaxies, ancient enemies continued their slow journey toward a confrontation that had been 500,000 years in the making. Humanity was ready to face them.